someone is coming today between right now and I think they said 2 o'clock this afternoon. So hopefully they won't come until 2 o'clock to repair this connection. Now the connection is working because of a temporary repair. But yesterday, some workmen accidentally cut the line, and when they were fixing the front area of the house here, and so that has to be more permanently fixed. If this happens, then we will shift over to using a phone as a hotspot, so to say. We'll try. But just so you know, at some point I may have to suddenly do a disappearing act. Yeah.
Okay, Guru Maharaj.
Beyond that, I will say I'm now speaking from Heidesheim in Deutschland. And it's nice to be back here where the weather is, for my system, I would say more tolerable. In India, it was getting very hot, but then it cooled down and we got some rain, but then it got hot again. And along with the new hot came all kinds of insects. Yeah. But I have to say, I am super grateful to the devotees of Nilachal Vedic Village. They were so kind. They accommodated me. They shifted devotees around in the brahmachari ashram so that I had my own room. Some of the brahmacharis were staying at night on the veranda in these sort of instant mosquito net that unfolds. So they were living very austerely, additionally because of me being there. And they were feeding me so nicely. One devotee was even cooking extra for me. I didn't ask him to, but he wanted to. So he was making very nice prasadam. And it was, I mean, in all respects, it was so nice to be there. I feel I was blessed. Krishna was very kind. Yeah, one downside again was internet connection was sometimes there, sometimes not there. So that was one of the austerities, you can say. And now I'm very grateful to His Grace Radharadhya Prabhu and his wife, Her Grace Sita Sundari Devi Dasi. They are hosting me in their home for these 2 weeks, and they're also spoiling me in so many ways. So here we are. Nice to see you all. I guess we can start by singing a song, shall we?
Yes.
We still haven't, nobody has yet volunteered to sort of be the musician with something musical here, but Well, a cappella is also nice. Oh, what's that? Huh?
Yeah, sorry, Guru Maharaj, it was just a message. I'm on.
Oh,
I'm not on mute.
I
Yes.
thought you were adding some music.
Ah, okay. But Dharma Gupta knows how to do that, so maybe he will start it. Let's see.
Okay.
Do this a cappella.
Yes, let's do this a cappella. Okay. Here we are. This is Vidyara Vilase from Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura from his book Saranagati. Song number 2 of the first part called Dainya. I thought we maybe could go through the translation first and then we can go to the song. So translation, the first verse. With great enthusiasm, I spent my time in the pleasures of mundane learning and never worshipped your lotus feet, O Lord. You are my only shelter. Second verse, reading on and on, my hopes grew and grew, for I considered the acquisition of material knowledge to be life's true goal. How fruitless those hopes turned out to be, for all my knowledge proved feeble. Now I know that all such erudition, which means learning, is actually pure ignorance. All the so-called knowledge of this world is born of the flickering potency of your illusory energy, Maya. It is an impediment to the execution of devotional service to you. Indulgence in mundane knowledge verily makes an ass of the eternal soul by encouraging his infatuation with this temporary world. Here is one person who has been turned into such an ass, who for so long has carried on his back the useless burden of material existence. Now, in my old age, for want of the power to enjoy, I find that nothing at all pleases me. Life has now become agony, for my so-called erudite knowledge has proven itself to be worthless ignorance. Material knowledge has now become a pointed shaft and has pierced my heart with the intolerable burning pain of ignorance. O Lord, there is no treasure worth seeking in this world other than your lotus feet. Bhaktivinoda abandons all his mundane knowledge and makes your lotus feet the sum and substance of his life. All right, we can come back to the translation, but here we go. I think, let's see. Vidyara vilāse āinu kāla parama sāhase ami. Vidyara vilāse āinu kāla parama sāhase ami. Tomāra caran bhajinu kabhu ekhona śaran tumi. Tomāra caran bhajinu kabhu ekhona śaran tumi. Porite porite bharasā bārilo. Jñāne gati habe māni. She asha biphala, she jñāna durbala, she jñāna a-vidyā jñāne. Oops, I didn't repeat. Porite 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 bharasā bārilo. Jñāne gati habe māni. Se asha biphala, se jñāna durbala, se jñāna a-vidyā jñāne. Jada vidya jata mayara vaibhava tomāra bhajane vadha. Jada vidya jata mayara vaibhava tomāra bhajane vadha. Moha janamiya anitya samsare jiva ke kharaye gadha. Moha janamiya anitya samsare jiva ke kharaye gadha. Se gadha hoye samsare rabhoja bhajinu aneka kāla. Se gadha hoye samsare rabhoja bhajinu aneka kāla. Bardake ekhona shaktir abhave kichu nahi lage bhalo. Bardake ekhona shaktir abhave kichu nahi lage bhalo. Jivana jatana hoilo ekhona se vidyā a-vidyā bhelo. Jivana jatana hoilo ekhona se vidyā a-vidyā bhelo. A-vidyāra jala gati lo vishama se vidyā hoilo shelo. A-vidyāra jala gati lo vishama se vidyā hoilo shelo. Tomāra charana bina kichudana saṅsare na ache ara. Tomāra charana bina kichudana saṅsare na ache ara. Bhaktivinoda vidya chadi tua pada kore sara. Bhaktivinoda vidya chadi tua pada kore sara. Vidyara vilase āinu kāla parama sāhase ami. Tomāra charana na bhajinu kabhu ekhona śaran tumi. Okay, so Vidyara Vilase, āinu kāla, parama sāhase ami. With great enthusiasm, I spent my time in the pleasures of mundane learning. Vidya, of course, means knowledge. Jnāna can also means knowledge, but vidya, vidya, in my mind, has more of a sense of like technology, like knowing how to do things is vidya, but it has a wide spectrum of meaning. āinu kāla. Kāla means time. āinu, I spent, I engaged. Parama sāhase, with great enthusiasm. And ami, of course, means I. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is continuing his so to say, autobiography. And of course, he's also praying, and he is praying to the Lord, as he did in the previous song. And he is also, in a sense, making a confession. So, tomāra charano, your lotus feet, na bhajinu kabhu. I didn't worship you at all. Kabhu means at all, not kabhu. Ekhona śaran tumi. Now, ekhon, you are my only shelter. You are my shelter. Porite, porite, bharasā bārilo, jñāne, gati, habe, māni. Māni is maniya. Reading on and on. Porite, porite. My hopes grew and grew. Bharasā, bhārilo. Bharasā would be hope, I presume, and bhārilo expanded. Jñāne, gati, habe, māniya. I consider the acquisition of material knowledge to be life's true goal. Gati, of course, means goal. Asha viphala. Phala means fruit, result, and biphala means sort of the opposite, bad result or fruitless. How fruitless those hopes turned out to be, for all my knowledge proved feeble. Durbala. Bala means strong, strength, dur, bad or far, so weak. Hridaya durbala, weakness of heart. So, say asha, this hope, biphala, was fruitless. Say this jñāna, this knowledge, durbala, was weak. Now I know that all such erudition, all such learning is actually pure ignorance. Jñāne, agyan, jñāni. Jñāni, ami jñāni, I know. Ami jñānina, if you're in Bengal and someone asks you something and you don't know what they're saying or asking or what anything, you just say, ami jñānina, I don't know. Uchte parina. Okay. Joda vidya jata. Mayar vaibhav. Tomāra bhajane bādha. All the so-called knowledge of this world, jada vidya is jada. This world is the world of jada. Jada means dull, or can sort of mean lifeless. Jada vidya jata, mayar vaibhav. It's just an expansion. The translation says, is born of the flickering potency of your illusory energy, Maya. Let's see. Tomāra bhajane bādha. Okay. It is an impediment. Bādha, I guess, is impediment. Moha janamiya anitya samsare. It is an impediment to the execution of devotional service to you. Okay. Tomāra bhajane bādha. That's bādha means impediment. Tomāra bhajane, in the worship of you, this maya, this jada vidya is simply bādha. And it's mayar vaibhav. Moha janamiya. Indulgence in mundane knowledge verily makes an ass. of the eternal soul by encouraging his infatuation with this temporary world. Let's see. Moha janamiya anitya samsare jivake koraye gadha. The word gadha means ass or donkey. I always remember we had this neighbor in Istria near Valtura. This neighbor had an ass, and now and then the ass liked to sing. And we found out that, what's the term? The name of the ass was the voice of Istria, which, what is it in Croatian voice?
Glas Istria.
Yeah, Glas Istria. So there's a newspaper, Glas Istria, and this ass was also Glas Istria. Anyway, yeah. Number 4, say Gadha hoye. I am such an ass. Samsara, this is our very exalted Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura is referring to himself in this way. Here is one person who has been turned into such an ass, who for so long has carried on his back the useless burden of material existence. Samsara boja bhajinu anek kāla. Anek kāla, for a long time. Bhajinu has carried. Samsara boja, the burden of samsara. Now, bardake ekhona, now in my old age, shaktir abhave, power abhave is not existing, didn't happen. Let's see, now in my old age, for want of power to enjoy, kichu nahi lage bhalo, I don't find anything good. Lage is to find or experience. Kichu nahi, nothing at all. Bhalo, good, nothing is good. Jivan jatana hoilo akon, a-vidyā, a-vidyā, bhelo. Life has now become agony. For my so-called erudite knowledge has proven itself to be worthless ignorance. Okay, I don't know the word jatana and the word bhelo. Bhela, I'm not sure. But life, jivan, has become also a burden. Life has now become agony. Agony. For my so-called erudite knowledge has proven itself to be worthless knowledge. Material knowledge has now become a pointed shaft and has pierced my heart with the intolerable burning pain of ignorance. A-vidyā jala, jala means burning. So the fire, jala, of a-vidyā, gatilo bishama. Gatilo, I think, means pierce. And this knowledge, se vidyā, hoilo shelo, it has become simply intolerable, has become shelo. We'll have to ask Sugopi, what is shelo? Belo and shelo.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Maharaj. Actually, I was discussing this song today morning with my husband. And in fact, this bhelo and shelo was like, I was unfamiliar, but what I see from the translation, this shelo means the shaft, the pointed shaft. And bhelo is worthless. Yeah, so bhelo, I guess so. In fact, I told him that it must be like something like worthless or of no use.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So shelo
Thank you.
must be.
So
Vidya hoilo.
vidya, a-vidyā bhelo. So this useless knowledge. This is useless knowledge. This knowledge is useless knowledge. It's useless ignorance. And then shelo is shaft.
Yeah.
Okay.
Vidya hoilo, like the knowledge has acted like the pointed shaft.
It became a shaft.
Piercing. Yeah. And
Hoilo.
pierced my heart.
Hoilo became a shaft. This knowledge became a shaft which pierces the heart, gatilo. And bishama?
Vishwama generally means into confusion. Vidyara jala, like with the fire or due to agony of like avidya.
So maybe in this...
Ghatilo is to lessen down. Generally, the meaning of ghatilo is to lessen down.
To lessen down. Okay. Reduce.
Yeah, reduce.
Okay. So, and then the last verse. Tomāra charana vina kichu dhana samsare na ache āra. O Lord, there is no treasure worth seeking in this world other than your lotus feet. So dhana, of course, means wealth or treasure, and bina kichu, dhana. Kichu means any at all, bina, without, or so your feet, tomāra charana, your lotus feet, bina kichu dhana, without any treasure, samsare na ache ara. There is, ara means more or other. Yeah, kichu means at all, I guess you can say. Samsare, in this world, na ache, there is not another treasure. There is not any other treasure. It's quite strong emphasis. And then Bhaktivinoda, Jada vidya chadi. That chadi is, of course, chadiya. Having given up this jada vidya, tuva pada kore sara. He makes your lotus feet the essence. Sara means essence. Here translated the sum and substance of his life. And again, we have this tuva, this intimate form, or in this case, the most intimate. So, whoops, I just lost it. What happened? Let's try that again. Yeah. So another song of, we can say, lamentation over material life. It reminds me, just now as I was going through this, it reminds me of Mary Shelley's novel, Frankenstein. Some of you maybe read Frankenstein, or you probably saw some movie, Frankenstein, right? Yes. I recommend, I shouldn't recommend, but still I recommend, because it's very good writing. This was written, Mary Shelley was the wife of Percy Bysshe Shelley, a very famous British poet in the early 19th century. who lived a very short life. Mary Shelley was a writer, and they were, I think they were in Italy or Switzerland with some friends, other poets, and they decided to make a contest. They would write horror stories. And so Mary Shelley wrote this Frankenstein. And the comparison here is that Dr. Frankenstein, who goes to Ingolstadt for his education. Ingolstadt is near Munich, from Geneva, Switzerland. And he's being educated there, and he's learning chemistry and other subjects, and he gets this passion that he wants to create a living being, and he becomes this. He is the original mad scientist of Western society, Western culture, Dr. Frankenstein. And we all know people confuse. They think that the monster that he creates is Frankenstein. No, the monster he creates never gets a name. It's Dr. Frankenstein who's the creator. And because the monster that he creates becomes dangerous and eventually murders Frankenstein's younger brother, and he murders, I think, also his wife, and he murders his best friend over a period of time. And he's doing all this out of frustration because nobody likes him. He feels lonely. And why is he lonely? Because he's ugly. He looks really horrible. And what's especially interesting, I find, is that Frankenstein's monster is a vegetarian. But the point here is that Dr. Frankenstein laments his learning. He feels terrible that he has created this monster. And it's because of his learning. His learning, in effect, has created the monster. Oh, I see Aditi there in the background now. Hare Krishna, Aditi. And Damodar Chandra is there. Whole family in Gurgaon.
Yeah. It suddenly became very pleasant today, Maharaj. Yesterday and today morning, yeah, it was like terrible, hot and humid. And just an hour back, it suddenly has become quite pleasant now.
Very good, very good. Okay. But Delhi is the worst place in India right now, isn't it, for this COVID? Yeah. So be careful. Okay, so mundane knowledge. I spent 8 years. Now I have to make my confession. I went back to university in 1995 just for this a-vidyā, and I spent 8 years full time. And I don't know. Here's my next confession. I don't lament it in the same way, at least that Bhaktivinoda Thakura does. Maybe later in my life I will lament, but for now I'm not lamenting. I found somehow that it has been, I found that it's been useful for my service. I've been able to, do things, engage in the academic world, so-called, which I don't think I would have been able to do otherwise. I say I don't think because it's not necessarily the case. always admiring my godbrother Dhruta Karma Prabhu, who never got any degrees in the university, but he became a very, very accomplished scholar in archaeology, and based on that, he's been an acknowledged scholar, recognized. He gets articles published, peer-reviewed journals. He gives lectures. He's been giving lectures in learned circles all over the world, and he's, recognized as independent scholar. So based completely on his scholarship, not on degrees. Anyway, okay, so let us proceed. Now we have some show and tell.
Yes, Guru Maharaj, we have two presenters today. First is Anandamayi Mataji, then Mataji Diralalita after her.
Okay, all right.
Anandamayi Mataji, you can unmute yourself.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
You said something to me about encouraging devotees, to think about encouraging devotees to write something. So I presented something. I made some presentation, short presentation, if I can show something.
Okay.
I can share the screen now. Yeah.
Yes, you can share. Yeah, you can share, Mataji.
Yeah.
Enable the sharing so you can share.
So these are the incentives to write. I call this incentives, not affirmations, just to encourage devotees. Yes. We know that you said many things about writing, and I can only tell something from my observations. I wrote a few, about 3 years I was writing articles for internet every week, almost every week. So this was writing of trial and error method. But there are some points I noticed during my writing, and maybe some of them can encourage devotees. So here are some simple short steps to the process of writing I found useful. So here is the next point. Here's a child, and he's saying that he is a writer and he loves writing. So even the child can write, so why not we? And the first stimulus here is the topic I'm choosing, if I have a choice, must really interest me at the moment, because we change our interest, but at the moment, if not, the text I write will not attract me, and therefore those who read it. So this is the simple point I noticed. The second stimulus is direction. What do I want to present? So there's the idea, the plan, the points, some draft, and title to have this direction. The next stimulus is good research, to have a broader vision of the topic. Do not necessarily use everything, but to have, if we have more, if we have many things, we can choose something proper for our text, and to present the text in a broader, in a bona fide way. Fourth stimulus is modulate the text, focus on relevant content, present nicely the essence, and read the text often and correct it. So more we read the text and correct it, and again read and then correct it, this modulates the text. It can be, in my case, it is day after day, short reading and quick correction. This builds the text. Fifth stimulus is find additional tools to enrich the text, like photos, pictures, paintings, graphics, or create something, because most people are visualizers, like Srila Prabhupada, who presented the books, and in every books he put some paintings to make it more nice, more rich, more close to us, to visualize the pastimes of the Lord and so on. So sixth stimulus is inspire yourself to write. Like systematic writing makes one feel properly engaged. If we want to be engaged, it helps to write systematically, to write until you feel satisfied yourself, honestly, because when we are satisfied, then the reader will be satisfied, what I mentioned. But honestly, just okay, I really feel that it is okay what I'm writing. Seventh stimulus is exceed the limits you think you have. So thinking that what I have written is sufficient does not necessarily mean that it is sufficient. So these are my realizations. And gradually I was thinking, what else I can say? How much more? The steps further. The eighth stimulus is the more you give, the more you get. By giving knowledge and realizations, you will create space to receive more knowledge and realizations. Don't get stuck. And this is a spiritual development. This is the secret. We give something and there's the space to receive more, get more. Without writing, I feel I'm stuck somewhere. And the last stimulus is the more I get, the more I need. This is the thirst for more. Like this is my last realization in writing, that I'm waking up something in my heart to catch more and more. So these are the short steps. I think, I don't know if this will encourage you, but for me it works. I made this presentation and I was more inspired to write myself. So maybe this will help also you. So thank you for your attention. I was doing it quickly.
Thank you. That's nice. And yes, it's encouraging, and it's also a reminder. Oh, today is June 13th already. We set a sort of a deadline, you may remember, for writing on a reflection, something from Canto 2 Bhagavatam. What was that deadline? Does anyone know? 30th of
June.
Of June.
Yeah.
How many days is that from now?
About 18, yeah, no, 10.
Yeah,
17.
17 days.
Yeah.
So the clock is ticking.
Yeah, okay.
I'm speaking to everyone, not to you specifically. So,
yeah, I'm in the progress of, I'm writing this
good.
smaranam, so I'm okay with it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now we have Dhira Lalita.
Yes, Guru Maharaj. And after Mataji Dhira Lalita, we have Dinadayal Prabhu. He also wants to share something. So,
Oh, okay.
okay, Mataji Dhira Lalita.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj, and Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Bol.
Please accept my humble obeisances.
Jai, Hare Krishna.
Well, I've prepared two things for today. One is very short. It's a little silly poem, really, and another one is the Bhagavata Smaranam, the reflection that I have sent first to Sanga. She was my partner in reading, and then I got feedback from her, and then I sent it to Lila Marita, and then Lila Marita sent me back some suggestions, so I've corrected it, edited it with the help of Jai Lakshman, and I sent it back to Lila Marita, and she accepted it. So I've got, so yeah, I either read this little poem or I read the reflection.
Okay.
And it's your choice.
It's a choice.
It's your choice, Guru Maharaj. I'd like to hear.
I don't know. We can, maybe let's hear the poem for now.
Okay. Poem is really relevant to this Zooming meetings that I've been part of the.
It's a Zoom poem.
Yeah. It's called Zooming Enlightenment. Online gardens made of flowers of Zoom gathering type, with a variety of fragrances evaporating from holy books, spoken by special types of honeybees, called Vaishnavas, Vaishnavis, Swamis, devotees, Bhaktas and Bhaktinis. They produce a large quantity of fine quality, various types of honey that in form of sweet sound fills our ears and makes us smile. It is all for free, and it's organic, authentic, most filling, and has healing properties. You only need to take your pick.
Acha. It's organic. Zoom. It's the first time I'm hearing that Zoom is organic.
I mean, what we're hearing through the Zoom is organic.
Yes. Okay, that's nice. Thank you. Okay, so now that we're all zoomed up and ready to write some more, Dinadayal, you had something?
Hare Krishna, can you hear me?
We can.
Right. Well, first of all, good to see all you great Vaishnavas there, week after week. It was a pleasure to hear you constantly. And maybe my topics are not so transcendental as from our respected Vaishnavis, but something which I went through last few years and might be of interest and help for many of us at this call. It's about the health and taking care of the body.
Okay, yeah.
About writing. But what I realized, a few years ago, I had some health issues. My heart was beating 100 constantly. And I went to the doctor, and doctor said, here are the pills, take it, and it's going to be reduced. And no reason why is it happening. And I was quite frustrated. I was just turning 40. And then I shared that with some of my friends, Vaishnava friends, devotees. And they also complain about their own issues. And what I realized, that sometimes we are switching Krishna consciousness for our own personal ignorance or careless attitude towards the body. So that was my insight. And what I did a few years ago, I took it very seriously, being frustrated with the situation and seeing that body is going off unnecessary. I started to exercise regularly, meaning do some yoga, some kettlebells, some weights, some running, some biking, some ecliptic bike, and so on. And I came to the point that I was able to sort out the bodily discomforts, starting with the back pain, starting with the digestion, starting with some emotional disturbances which we can encounter and have in our day-to-day living. So that was my beautiful insight, how we can, with a particular determination and good sadhana also in terms of taking care of the body, we can address certain issues which are very fundamental and which are all pervading in our life. If body is not functioning properly, then we have all kinds of problems. And so I just call it that we shouldn't switch our personal ignorance and careless attitude towards body with Krishna consciousness, just to kind of stamp it, it's Krishna consciousness, we are getting old. Yes, we are getting old, but it's in the same time, we can take care of the body and body can serve much better on a long term. So that's one thing which is, I would say, very insightful. And I'm noticing some of the devotees I know, they are kind of not so eager to address that issue. And that's a lifelong change. I would say in my case, you have to sweat yourself every day. That's the idea. And the second thing which is connected with that, it's not only about the body. While we taking care of the body, for instance, when you run, you can listen to the lectures. And what I'm doing, my project is wonderful. In fact, my project is listening Srila Prabhupada memories, just to kind of enlighten relationship with Srila Prabhupada, which is for some of us quite challenging in a sense. We're trying to get more nourishing. And while you listening to the lectures and stories from Vaishnavas, direct disciples of Srila Prabhupada, about Prabhupada, then you start to appreciate them, appreciate Srila Prabhupada, the whole movement, whole attitudes, whole system of values which Srila Prabhupada aligned, lived, and he also gave to his disciples. So then you can have better perspective in Krishna consciousness, in our ISKCON society, and then you can be happier. You can be physically happier, but you can be also emotionally. You can learn a lot, and hopefully we can also live it and then continue with parampara in that way, to be healthy, good elements of our society which are distributing Krishna consciousness. So that's my small contribution, which I personally live. So it's a kind of realized knowledge, and I think it's great. And for me, it's very, very key element in the upliftment of my overall well-being. That's what I wanted to say. So thank you for listening, and maybe it's going to be useful for some of you.
Yes, very nice. Thank you.
And hopefully, Maharaj, see you here soon, maybe.
We are considering.
Ladies, they already know about it. So Mandali also.
Well, I shouldn't bring this up here with everyone there, but one consideration of where I go next is where can I get a good dentist?
We'll find.
We have one lady here. We have in Ferrer.
In Slovenia, Guru Maharaj.
Now everyone's going to say, "Oh, we have the best dentist."
In Poland, they're the best.
Yeah.
Maharaj, I just finished one Zoom seminar on being a dentist. So please come here.
You gave a seminar on being a dentist?
This is a joke. Online, Zoom.
Okay. Anyway, good. So keep up your health, and that requires some effort, especially you're saying exercise. So yes, I'm also doing this in a sort of a minimal way, but something. And read about Srila Prabhupada, read or hear. You said you're hearing these memories of Prabhupada. Also, I'm doing I've been reading while I'm here, they have Shrutakirti Prabhu's book. What is it called? What is the difficulty? Prabhupada used to ask all the time, what is the difficulty? So this morning, just to share one of these little episodes that he's remembering, he remembers, Shrutakirti remembers 160 plus little episodes of his experience with Prabhupada as his servant in particular. So one was the 7-Up incident, you may have heard. They were on a flight, I forget from where to where, 1973. The cabin crew were serving drinks, serving something to keep one hydrated. And they came by Prabhupada's row with the 2 devotees next to him. Prabhupada asked, what is that? What are they offering? Oh, this is 7-Up, Prabhupada. Oh, okay, let me try it. Prabhupada tried it. And he liked it. And he said, oh, very good. So the devotees were very excited that, oh, Prabhupada likes 7-Up. This is good news, because we also like 7-Up. And then they're in New York. Actually, I guess it was on their way to New York this happened. And then in New York, Prabhupada and a couple of devotees went to look at one property. They were considering, where can we get? So they're looking at this property, which was actually a church, a large church. And they're standing on the opposite side of the street looking at this church and thinking, yes, this looks very good. And just close to them is one small shop where they sell, juice and such. And Prabhupada asked, so possible to get some 7-Up there? So they went rushing in, they bought a can, one can of 7-Up, gave to Prabhupada. Prabhupada was standing, they opened it, Prabhupada stood there, he was drinking. And then it became the thing. I think from there he went to Los Angeles, and then the devotees were all ready with the 7-Up, and it was going like this. But then, some days or weeks later, they're in, I think he said Bombay, and they're going down the stairs, and there's this whole stacks of 7-Up there being stored, because by now devotees understand Prabhupada likes it, we like it, and Prabhupada sees this and he says, no, this is not necessary. It's good for, I was taking it as good for digestion, something, but not that now we all indulge in this sweet drink. So that was the end of it. So there was a short phase of 7-Up ecstasy within ISKCON because Srila Prabhupada was liking it. There's also there's a couple of things with St. Moritz. Before all of this, they were in Europe. They made a stop in Switzerland, in Zurich. And from Zurich, they went to St. Moritz, which is in the mountains. It's a ski resort. The devotees urged Prabhupada to take a break, so they went to the ski resort. But everything was covered in snow, and Prabhupada absolutely was not inspired. It's like, you call it St. Moritz, I call it St. Hellish. He was not inspired at all. So very soon they came down. At some point, because they're in Switzerland, Shyama Sundar, who was with him, thought, well, we're in Switzerland. Switzerland is the land of clocks and watches. So he bought one electronic watch for Srila Prabhupada. And it looked kind of impressive. But the thing about this watch was, in order to see the time, you had to press a button on the watch. So they gave him this watch, he put it on, and then they explained to him, if you want to see the time, you press this button with your other hand. So Prabhupada said, oh, so now I need two hands to see the time. Everyone is silent. Oh, yeah, well, okay, forget it. Prabhupada saw through, he penetrated through the apparent advance in technology to say, oh, now I need two hands. Before I only needed one hand to look at my watch. Now you're giving me something that supposedly is an improvement when I want just two hands to see the watch. Thank you, but no thank you. Yeah. Okay, Hare Krishna. All right, shall we proceed with a bit of dialogical Vaishnavism?
Yes, Guru Maharaj, please, you can continue with your...
Okay, we... it was 2 weeks ago that we started this. And I think before I start, you can contemplate this picture. And I'm gonna take a 1 minute break. Actually, I'll give you something more to look at. Here we are. Yeah. Okay, you can be looking at that. I'll be right back. Okay. Right. So I think I should actually back up some, because it was a while ago that we get a bit of review. So we may say my basic argument of this whole thing is that dialogue can be a good thing. And we had a couple of definitions of dialogue. And I think these are helpful to be aware of. I'm going to have to move this thing. Yeah. No? Okay. So this is review. This is from Scott London in his essay, The Power of Dialogue. Dialogue is a form of discussion aimed at fostering mutual insight and common purpose. So it fosters two things. One is mutual insight and the other is common purpose. There's mutuality in both of these. The process involves listening with empathy, searching for common ground, exploring new ideas and perspectives, and bringing unexamined assumptions into the open. So there are four things the process involves: empathy, searching for common ground, exploring new ideas and perspectives, and bringing unexamined assumptions into the open. What these four activities suggest, I would say, is active endeavor. It's not a passive process. It involves a quite focused engagement for these things to happen. We had two other sort of definitions from someone else, William Isaacs, Dialogue and the Art of Thinking Together. Dialogue is a conversation in which people think together in relationship. And dialogue is a way of taking the energy of our differences and channeling it towards something that has never been created before. Very interesting idea. Here we have differences. Okay, what do we do with them? Do we try to get rid of the difference? Not necessarily. There's an energy generated from the difference, and that energy can be put to use. It can be channeled. And what can be channeled toward creating something that hasn't been there before? And what could be there that wasn't there before, going back to the first definition, some common purpose could be something that wasn't there before, or a mutual insight. Okay, we contrasted this with debate and apologetics, and I won't spend time with those, but we had some ideas about these. And I wanted to say that both debate and apologetics have their place also in devotional life. They're part of our tradition. Maybe I should go all the way back to our key questions, because somehow the machine just did this to me. So here they are again. How can our own spiritual lives and devotional experience of Krishna consciousness be enriched through open engagement with people of faith in other traditions? This is looking at ourselves. How can our spiritual lives be enriched? Second, how can we share Krishna consciousness with others in ways that are value-adding for others, for persons of faith, thus pursuing genuine friendship and cooperation for fostering spiritual uplift of all? And by the way, we might discuss the idea of persons of faith, because there are those who will say, well, I'm an atheist, I have no faith in anything. We could say, well, that's interesting, and let's discuss that. You can have dialogue with atheists to explore the idea of faith. As we know in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says everyone has faith. Everyone is Shraddhamaya, full of faith. And the third key question, how can we foster a culture of dialogue within ISKCON. To what extent are we already doing that, and in what ways might it be improved, whether in smaller scale within a small community or a larger scale of ISKCON? What can be done to foster culture of dialogue? Which begs the question, what do we mean by a culture of dialogue? And that, you could say, is what I'm, in a very broad sense, wanting to discuss in this seminar. Oh, and then, back up again, then I was saying we do have, within our own tradition, something that we might call dialogue. And we can look at examples, Chaitanya Charitamrita. We can see in our later, with our later acharyas, especially Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura, I believe, really had a sense of let's recognize the differences and be somehow inclusive. And there we had this nice quote from him, from Chaitanya Shikshamrita, in which Bhaktivinoda is imagining himself in a place of worship of some other tradition, and he's saying to himself, the people here are worshiping my Lord, but in a different way. Because of my different training, I cannot properly comprehend this system of worship. That's interesting. He's taking a humble position. He's saying, I don't really understand what's going on here. He's not saying, oh, this is ridiculous, this is silly, this is whatever. Saying, I don't really understand this. However, through this experience, I can deepen my appreciation for my own system of worship. So this would be an example of enriching one's own spiritual life through engagement with others. I can deepen my appreciation for my own system of worship. The Lord is only one, not two. Therefore, I offer respect to the form I see here and pray to the Lord in this new form that he may increase my love for him in the form to which I am accustomed. That's an interesting way of putting it. Okay, I don't know what's going on here, but I understand there's only one God, so here is also God. Let me now pray to him in this form, and he may bless me that I will increase my love for him in my form, in the form I'm familiar with. So he's not entertaining the possibility of converting, so to say, to some other religious tradition. That's not there, but he's very much open to appreciating. Okay, we've very quickly looked at this. This comes from some Christian theologians who are trying to articulate how to relate their Christianity to other religions in a mature way, rather than just saying, well, we have to convert everyone. So they're recognizing these three general categories of attitudes with respect to other religions. And this is applicable from our perspective, Vaishnava perspective. There's exclusivism, there's inclusivism, and there's pluralism. And I would suggest you could find expressions just within Bhagavad Gita of all three of these. I won't go into that here, but I think there's elements of each of these and expressions occasionally of Srila Prabhupada's that could be identified with one or another of these. Okay, then we want to reflect ourselves on this, and then let's just get back to, what was this? Oh yeah, Srila Prabhupada. An example of Prabhupada not being so interested in dialogue as it's usually understood to be, because he's saying, I'm not lost. I know where I'm going. I know what is my destination. And if everyone in the room who wants to dialogue is making it their basis of mutual discussion, that none of us know where we're going, then he says, I can't be part of that because I know where I'm going. Because we raised the question, we brought in the Purva Paksha, the doubts, possible reasons not to do dialogue. And these are some samples which maybe cover. Our business is preaching, not sharing with others. We should rather be prepared for debate to establish truth over falsehood. And listening to others, non-Vaishnavas, wouldn't that lead to relativizing or watering down our philosophy? Couldn't it lead to confusion? Maybe, and this is a point I may have mentioned, dialogue, of course, there's all kinds of sorts of dialogue, more formal, less formal, very organized, spontaneous, but it may not be for everyone. It may not be for all Vaishnavas to be engaged in dialogue. And then this last doubt, isn't interfaith dialogue a waste of time? Because after all, everyone just goes back home the same as they were before the dialogue. Okay, now as you may have noticed, sometimes I like abstractions, abstract thinking. But I think this can be helpful in reflecting about dialogue and what may be involved. This is 4 different categories of otherness. We have 2 ideas. One is identity and the other is otherness. I've suggested Sanskrit terms for these. Ananyata or aikya for identity and anyata for otherness. There is a kind of fancy postmodern term, if you want to impress your friends, alterity. Alterity is just a fancy word for otherness, I guess. In any case, Stuart Gordon, in this article, Hindus, Muslims, and the Other in 18th century India, identifies 4 types of otherness. One is the other beyond the known world. What does this mean? Well, Martians. If it would happen that one day some extraterrestrial beings would appear on the earth, there's so much science fiction, so many stories and novels imagining such situations, and of course there are whole groups claiming that UFOs are reality. They are coming to Earth, they are flying around. And so who is doing that? Who is flying those UFOs? Who is making those UFOs? That's the interesting question. Some beings who are other than us, other than than the known world. This known world changes over time. In the 13th century Europe, we may say, all of India and China and most of the Middle East was unknown, what to speak of Africa. So when Marco Polo went to India and then to China and then came back to Italy with all of his amazing stories, all of this was very interesting because it was about the other of the unknown world. Then there, second, are the other amongst us. And this is a subject which is especially interesting for the sociologists. They like to analyze how different groups identify themselves as a group by identifying persons who are not in their group. It's said in sociology that social groups are constantly defining and redefining their boundaries. And it's an interesting thing to think about in relation to our own experience in various social circles that we find ourselves in. How do we identify ourselves? Very often it's in relation to those who are not us. I found this especially striking during these more or less 10 weeks that I was in Thalassery, in this farm. Very nice farm. Altogether, they have 67.5 acres, which is, I don't know what, 30 hectares or something. But it's in two parts, and most of what goes on is in one of these two parts, where the temple is and the ashrams and the goshala, so on. So that's where I was staying. So in an area of, let's say, 15 hectares, with a partially paved and partially unpaved road, which went around the inside circumference of the farm. So just inside a barbed wire fence, which enclosed the entire farm, except for a large metal gate. And outside the farm was open fields with date palm trees and other kinds of trees, and very dry fields which looked like in the rainy season they grow rice, but they were completely dry all the time I was there. The farm is completely green because the devotees have very good irrigation system and a very good water reservoir, very large, very well organized system. And the area around the farm, I mean, it's several, I don't know, kilometers of area in northern Maharashtra. It's all Adivasi territory. Adivasi means aboriginal or tribal. These are the tribal peoples of India. There's a large percentage of tribals in India. So all around us were these tribals. And a few of these tribals are hired workers on the farm. So they would come into the farm each day and they would do their particular services, their work. Some of them help in the Goshala. I saw, maybe 4 or 5 would come. A couple of ladies were always coming, some others. And otherwise, they were working in the fields, in the gardens. And, but there was a distinct feeling that there's a difference. There's inside the farm and there's outside. And the people inside are different from the people outside. And when the tribals would come in, and we're just talking about a few, would come for work each day. So sometimes I would be taking my morning walk around the farm, and 1 or 2 or 3 tribals would be coming in to do their work. And so we would be walking in opposite direction on the road, and I would look over to them, and I wanted to smile a little bit, say hello, something like that. And I noticed, without fail, they would never look at me. They would just look straight ahead. And I was curious about that. I asked one of the devotees, why are they don't like me? What's going on? They see that I'm Westerner, I have white skin, what is it? So this devotee's explanation was that not only are you not tribal, so you're not Indian, you're Western, so you're in a category for them that they just, it goes off the scale for them. They just wouldn't even know how to begin to relate to you, and therefore they ignore you. So I thought that's interesting. We live in a world. We live in a world that's like this. How would you dialogue with such persons if you could speak the language? Anyway, I could go on that subject, but the third type of difference is, well, I want to say dominant groups and marginalized groups. Generally, when you have this distinction made in social group, one of them will take the dominant position and the other will be the marginalized position. Now, of course, those who are in the marginal position in relation to the dominant group may themselves perceive themselves as the dominant ones, and you are the marginalized. And that also, I wanted to say, one of the reasons I wanted to get out of India was because I could understand now, as a Westerner, because of this COVID virus situation, I am marginal. I am an outcast. Indians in general, if they see me, they are not they may not be friendly, and they may even, give trouble. So, because they're thinking that it's us Westerners who have brought this disease to their country, which may be true. Anyway, for that reason, I thought, okay, wow, now I'm an outcast. I get to experience what it feels like to be an outcast. The third group of otherness is the other who stands at the opposite end of a one-on-one relationship. Now, a one-on-one relationship means there's all kinds of one-on-one relationships. There are friends, there are colleagues, there are husband and wife, there are brothers and sisters, sisters and sisters, and so on. All the different relationships. So these are more we may say these are close relationships, relatively more close or less close, but they are relationships where we are interacting with the other person. And that's a kind of otherness. It's a kind of a recognition of difference, and we celebrate that difference. If there was no difference, that could be extremely boring at the very least. I always remember my godbrother, His Holiness Bhaktivinoda Swami, giving a lecture, Bhagavad Gita or Bhagavatam. He said, imagine that everyone in the whole world looked and acted and spoke exactly like you. How would that feel? This would not be enjoyable. It would. Variety is the spice of life. And finally, there is the other within. There is that voice. There is, well, we can take this in two ways. One is the more philosophical way, that there is Atman and there is Paramatman. And certainly we want to make the connection with the divine other who is within us. And ultimately we want to connect yoga with the divine other, the Supreme Lord. And that is what we seek in ultimate Krishna consciousness. But there seems to be another sort of other within as we go about our daily lives and we find ourselves talking to ourselves. Sometimes this can be a very troublesome kind of dialogue, which may, it can be troublesome. It may not be inspirational. It may feel burdensome if it's not illuminating our way to spiritual awareness. So 4 different types of difference, which leads us now to think more about identity. So please bear with me. This is, again, I know it's all very abstract, but I find it helpful to think about all of this. We're going to have 4 and then another. We have 8 different conceptions of identity which have to do with our notions of otherness. And here we have essentialism, constructivism, relationalism, emotionalism, paranoia, institutionalism, psychologism, and political science. Again, before we go into what these are, now we're talking not about the other, we're talking about identity. Identity means the sense of I identify with a particular group, generally a particular social group. Okay, so with essentialism, the idea is the other is a set of conditions, of social, emotional, and physical conditions that these other people have, but we, what we call those in my identification group, which we do not. So again, the tribals that I experienced in India, it's a different social group. Emotionally, they may have a whole different way of relating in the world. Physically, I found these tribals, practically speaking, they were all smaller in stature, small and thin, indicating that their nourishment was probably not as good as the non-tribals. Then comes constructivism, where a person will say all notions of identity and other are fluid, they're contested, they are fragmented, and they're uncompleted. Now, constructivism, this is a buzzword in the academy. It's basically the idea that all of our understanding of the world is constructed. There is whatever we understand about the world is something that is put together by individuals, by groups. It's not something which is solid or what we can call substantial reality. No, this is all constructed. So from this perspective, and this can be helpful, I would say, to keep in mind this constructivism. Sometimes it's appropriate. All conceptions of the other are fluid, which means what we may conceive as the other may change in time. Contested means anybody can challenge it. Fragmented means it's partial, it's not the whole picture. And uncompleted means it's partial over time. So it's something which is being developed, it's a concept being developed over time, like that. All right, relationalism. I hope you're still with me with my abstractness here. When's he going to start talking about Krishna? Okay. Relationalism. The other has an essentialized network of social relationships that we do not. Okay, essentialized means we have a conception that it's sort of the opposite of constructivism. We essentialize someone. If we see persons of another race, for example, we essentialize them. All people of that race have this particular characteristic. They all act in a certain way. We generalize. And by that, we also depersonalize. We tend to remove their individuality. Then there's emotionalism, and here you start to see all of these can be overlapping in different ways with different emphasis. But emotionalism is, I just don't like these people. Why I don't like them? I just don't like them. We don't like those people. Why don't we like them? Because we just don't like them. And there's no need for an explanation of why we don't like them. We just don't. We don't question why we don't like them. We just don't. And we're going to insist that we don't like them. Notions, further notions. The fifth one is paranoia. You may know this word. Paranoia is unfounded fear. The state has a hegemonic role in the formation of identity and the other. Okay, this is related to political thought, we may say. So someone may have this feeling. Sometimes we all have this feeling, I suppose. The state, the government, or the government is a manifestation of the state, the entity of state organization. has a hegemonic role. Hegemonic means all-inclusive. It's inclusive. It covers everything. And the state has this hegemonic role in the formation of identity in the other. So it's all being manipulated. We may sometimes feel like this through the media. There can be very strong manipulation of our attitudes toward other people. Related to this, perhaps, is institutionalism. The other is outside the institutional network that we support. Here we might think about our own society, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. This is an institution which was formally established and which has so many formal structures, but which of course also has many informal aspects. But we may feel that there's us, Vaishnavas of ISKCON, and yes, we recognize there are Vaishnavas which are not members of ISKCON, but maybe we don't want to relate with them because they are not in our institution. So then they become the other to our identity. Then there's psychologism, which is the sense, it's a kind of analytical approach that, well, yes, we all need to have some identity. And that means we're naturally going to identify or define the other. We need this just for our mental health. If we don't have a sense of identity which has a strong social dimension, then we're kind of nowhere. And yeah, it could be an interesting kind of exercise, a thought experiment. Where are you, who are you, if you remove all of the social identifications that you make, that you habitually make for yourself. Just yesterday, I was talking with His Holiness Satchidananda Swami on the phone, and he was speaking about this, that he was making this thought experiment. Who am I if I remove absolutely everything from my identity, which is not me? Who am I if everything is taken away? Who is left? Anyway, psychologism says, no, you can't, that's not possible. You cannot have any sort of identity without some sense of otherness. And then finally, there's this political science approach that says, well, and we talked about politics before, politics being the other side of the coin of religion, and politics being about the organization of power. So identity is the basis for politics. Unless there's some sort of identity, then there's not going to be meaningful political engagement in the world. And here we may again remember Prahlad Maharaj, who refused to be interested in politics. Why? Because he didn't want to see friends and enemies. He was understanding politics means seeing friends and enemies. And I don't want to have friends and enemies. I just want to be a servant of Krishna. Everyone else is a servant of Krishna. What's the problem? So that's interesting. That's radical and, we can say, exalted Krishna consciousness. So here I'm raising some more questions that, again, as thought experiments, we can ask ourselves, what sort of presuppositions do we carry with regard to other persons? And here I'm speaking, you know, sort of generally, the context here is interfaith or interreligious dialogue, although dialogue is, of course, for all different dimensions of interaction. What sort of presuppositions do we carry with regard to other persons of other religions? And what sorts of presuppositions are there about the content of particular traditions? And we can ask ourselves, of what consists the otherness of others? We can also ask, are there degrees of otherness? Again, let's take as an example Vaishnavism. We may want to say, well, let's take from Chaitanya Charitamrita. There's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates, his very close associates, the Panchatattva. There are the 6 Goswamis, there's Ramananda Rai, and so on. There's his mother, there's Sita Thakurani, there's Sarv Damodar, and so on. There are other Vaishnavas. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu meets with Venkata Bhatta. And has a kind of dialogue with him. It's a kind of joking dialogue. That's a very nice passage you can read. In, what is it, Madhya Lila chapter, this must be chapter 9, 10, 11, 9, 10, 11, or 12. So Venkata Bhatta is a Vaishnava of a different tradition, Sri Vaishnava. So degree of otherness. Maybe we would contrast Venkata Bhatta with the unnamed Buddhist, a group of Buddhists that Lord Chaitanya later meets in South India. And then we can also ask this question, as we may say, a beginning step in dialogue. What do we have more or less in common with others that we want to communicate with? And of course, Krishna says in the Gita, if we need a reminder, Ishvara sarvabhutanam hritdeshe arjuna tishtati. The hritdesha, the place, the land of the heart. Lord Krishna says, I am the Ishvara who is tishtati, tishtata. He is situated. I am standing in that place, in the heart, where? Of whom? Sarvabhutanam, of all living beings. That's the big challenge, I would suggest, that we have in engaging in dialogue. Again, about presupposition. What do we presuppose about others? For example, I meet a Christian. Maybe I meet a born-again Christian on the street. And they want to convert me to they want me to, experience Jesus and whatever. So what do I start presuming about them? So we can look at ourselves first. What do we presume about these persons that we are meeting? And more generally about the traditions, the Christian faith, which of course has numerous different varieties. And we probably, I would say it's safe to say, all of you, all of us together speaking now, we don't know very much about any of these different traditions, even Christianity. Probably most of us, if we know something about any religious traditions other than Vaishnavism, it's probably Christianity because of our background. But how much do we know about Christianity? Actually, probably very little. And it could be interesting to learn something more about other religious traditions. Again, the Purva Paksha is, why would you want to waste your time to do that? Well, yeah, we can get back to that. Okay, now, I think I mentioned 2 weeks ago what I call, what did I call it? Dialogical literacy, interfaith literacy. I think I may have called it that. Now, interfaith dialogue is a very, very, very different thing from the academic study of religion. But I just wanted to introduce that there is something called the academic study of religion. And this may be something which you have absolutely no interest in, and that's fine. But it's an interesting phenomenon, and I was involved in the academic study of religion when I went back to university. This was the course that I took up. But I just wanted to put some images here of some of the better known scholars. And I've already forgotten, oh no, I already forgot who this is I put on the left side, so don't ask me. Somebody from the 13th century who did some kind of interfaith dialogue with some, he was Christian, he had some kind of contact with Muslims in Spain. I think that was it. I won't tell you, I won't go into detail about any of these except 2 of them whom I have personally met and had some interaction with. Diana Eck in the far right, I've only met once. She came to Oxford. She's teaching at Harvard University. I don't know, maybe she's retired by now. She started a project called the Pluralist Project, which was a very elaborate study of the variety of religions in the United States. And you could say the essential purpose of her project was to highlight, to show just what variety there is, just how many different religious groups there are. Hundreds, I think thousands of different groups of all different traditions. And then on the bottom right is Ninian Smart, who became quite known as a kind of innovator in the study of religion from the perspective of what is called phenomenology. And I'll say a little more about him or his idea, which may be interesting for you a little later. He was my professor for one term, for one course. He taught a course called Yoga Traditions of India. And his course was very introductory, so it was actually quite easy for me. I got a top grade in the course. But I was an undergraduate, finishing up undergraduate study, and this course was available. He was kind of filling in for another professor who had just transferred to another university. And he was a pleasant sort of person, but he had some knowledge of Vaishnavism and Hindu traditions in general. He had been once, he had visited ISKCON North Ireland, the Innisrat. That was arranged for him to go there by Prithu Prabhu once. So he knew devotees, he's had prasadam, like that. Nice enough fellow. But one day in class, speaking, lecturing, he was saying something about gurus. And he said, "I don't like gurus." And then he proceeded to explain why he didn't like gurus. And the reason he didn't like gurus was that he had one experience meeting one guru, and he had asked this one guru a question, and the guru could understand that Ninian, Professor Smart, wanted to challenge him. And the guru responded, "Oh, you want to challenge, but this is not the right mood for inquiry, for spiritual inquiry. You're not going," in effect, he was saying, "you're not going to benefit, so I'm not going to answer your question." And so Professor Smart took that one experience, and at the time, I was being a sort of humble, submissive student wanting to get a good grade in the class, so I didn't say anything. I'm still to this day regretting. I should have said, "Professor, I just have one question. How is it that you've come to this conclusion after meeting only one guru? What kind of scientific inquiry, what sort of scholarly inquiry are you making? And what kind of understanding are you giving about gurus to young students? You are making a conclusion and you are not giving space for the students to make up their own minds. What kind of scholarship is this?" That's what I should have said, but I didn't. And it's too late now because he has died. Hare Krishna. Well, okay. One of the questions that is often discussed in the study of religion is what is called the insider-outsider, or the outsider-insider problem in the study of religion. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura gave this example of the honey jar and the bee outside the jar. So the bee outside the jar is wanting to get to the honey, but just licking the outside glass of the jar is not giving any nice result. Similarly, practitioners of religion are likely to say about the scholar of religion that you are simply trying to lick the glass jar on the outside. You are not going to learn anything about the reality of the tradition which I practice, because you're an outsider. So you're wasting your time. But the outsider will say, well, you insider are also clueless. I may be clueless, but you're clueless in another way, because you are enclosed inside your bubble of what you think is the ultimate reality, and you cannot comprehend your experience from a broader perspective. And so you think yours is the absolute, when it might just be one example of a particular phenomenon that we see in so many other forms. And so the argument goes back and forth. Now, the point I want to make is that more recently, scholars of religion will generally admit or agree, or they may even argue, that there is no such thing as a complete outsider or a complete insider. That always, all of us are somewhere in between. We are never completely enclosed in our Vaishnava bubble. Because of the society we live in, we are exposed to so many ideas. And the so-called outsider is also not completely outside, because he or she similarly has experience one way or another, and may have some degree of commitment also to a religious tradition. And scholarship can go on, therefore, in the area between the two, or it does go on in this liminal space, which is what I do in my doctoral thesis. I say in the introduction, I am a practitioner, and I'm also, in certain respects, an outsider. And I explain what I say are advantages of my position. Well, there's one other scholar I wanted to mention, the late Wilfred Cantwell Smith. He was also at Oxford, not Oxford, he was at Harvard University. And he spoke about what he called cumulative tradition versus faith. And what he wanted to say by this is that if you want to study religion in an academic way, you can do so, and what you will have access to as a scholar are all the different aspects of a religious tradition, minus the experience of faith, which is in the heart of the practitioner. So what he's saying is, do not deny that people have real experience of faith. Respect that faith, and don't try to tamper with it. Don't try to deny it. Don't try to reduce it to something else. Accept it as it is, and look at everything else around that faith. That includes the sacred literature of the tradition. It includes all of the practitioners and their histories, their biographies, the saints. It includes the physical features, including the temples and churches and art and so on. on and on and on. All of these different features are there for you to study. And all of that is cumulative, which means it adds up over time. So I think this has been also helpful to get a sense of how we also can look at other religious traditions and learn something from them, and possibly taking the next step through dialogue, which is enriching our own faith. Well, we've already come to the time to say that it's time. Yeah, Hare Krishna. Just better change this, stop share. Yes, and there's a long message from Avadhuta Rai here, and also from Bharata something. Let's look at this one. Oh, that is a different topic. How should we worship Shiva Maheshwara Tattva? That's a different topic. Let's save that for another time. And then Pandava is asking, we know that Srila Prabhupada wanted his books to be distributed so Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam be recognized or known in the West, along with literature to maintain temples, etc. But did Srila Prabhupada inspire certain devotees to be engaged in religious dialogues? You spoke in your presentation as main way of spreading Krishna consciousness, or rather dialogues would happen naturally when ISKCON will preach. Okay, there's no doubt that Srila Prabhupada emphasized distributing his books. I think what I would want to say there is, okay, now we've distributed Srila Prabhupada's books to someone. Can we, in a very mature way, discuss with them in such a way which is not one-sided? In other words, can we say, here is an essential text from my tradition, and you're welcome to read this. You can read the whole thing or read part of it. Maybe you have some questions from it. And yes, maybe you have a book from your tradition and I can read something or all of it, and then maybe we can discuss. Can we do that? I'm not saying this should be our major program, although I think it would be very interesting if we would do a lot more of it. If we could become known in a general sense as being open to and willing and happy to engage in dialogue, I think this would be very helpful for setting the stage for preaching. The devotees who engage in ISKCON communications have a kind of mission statement, which says something like creating a space for the Sankirtan movement. So communication is engagement on many different levels. Recently I was in Delhi and I spent some time with Yudhishthira Govinda Prabhu. He's, I think he's the main communications officer for at least ISKCON Delhi, I think for more, I think for ISKCON India. And we went to meet some government people in the central government. And at one point he said to me, we were just chatting, and he said, actually, the whole Indian government, the whole central Indian government is really run by about 200 people. And I asked him, and how many of these do you know? And he said, I know about half of them. And we were able to meet two of them that afternoon in their office. It was not a problem to go meet people in this, top level of the government. So that's communications, very broadly speaking. And dialogue, one way of understanding dialogue is in that context. If we're thinking in terms of the promotion of our mission, then dialogue can have a very valuable place as showing a presence in public, a presence of readiness to dialogue with others, especially formal sorts of dialogues, and to show that we can be articulate in such dialogue can be very powerful. Rasodari Hari is asking about my memories of His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Swami Maharaj, today being his disappearance day. Oh, thank you for reminding us of this. Yeah, my interaction with him was for quite brief time, other than we would meet in Croatia over how many years was it when he started visiting, and then we had these nice summer festivals. But before that was my time of traveling with him, which was a 3-week period when I assisted him as he was doing the Bhaktivinoda library services, the library party project in first Austria and then the East German, former East Germany, Deutsche Demokratische Republik. What I like to remember about him is his fearlessness. It was kind of scary sometimes in East Germany. We were going places we were not supposed to be going, and so on. We almost got arrested one time. But his mood was, well, let's just go and see, Krishna will protect us. Okay, let's go. And so one really felt protected by Krishna because of that feeling that he always had, that Krishna will protect us. So Krishna was protecting us. So yeah, that was very nice. Dear Lalita, I do read time to time some Christian books written by monks about the realizations of God. It inspires me. I am in my practice, even though different from the practice of Christian monk. Yeah, there are insights. I think we have to appreciate there are deep insights by persons of different traditions, and we can be enriched by them. Insights, experiences, and so on. Okay, Dear Lalita says, dentists in the UK are closed till the end of the month. And there's a link for worship of Shiva. Okay. Vidyara has something here. Oh, he's asking about the Bhagavatam reflection. I simply cannot imagine that I start to write about myself, and I rather don't write anything than write about myself. Please forgive for that. Yeah, that's all right. It's not that we're looking to that. It's not about writing about oneself. I don't know how to explain this very well. We're trying to. It's also a kind of dialogue, you could say. Perhaps we're trying to share something of our own experience from the reading. I think that's the point. So instead of sort of hiding behind the Bhagavatam, we're trying to bring out something about ourselves. So the focus is on the Bhagavatam, but it's bringing yourself into the focus. You are part of it. Some of you may have seen and heard me explain, I have this sort of a yantra way of appreciating the Bhagavatam, but that's a whole lecture, that's a whole discussion in itself, which I won't get into now. Actually, I have to go now because they're waiting for me for lunchtime, and then something else is happening. So I will say thank you all again. And we didn't have any interruption, so that's a good thing. What I thought to do next time, I do want to continue with this subject of dialogical Vaishnavism, if you're interested. Next time I'll go into the official ISKCON statement about interfaith dialogue, which has some features which may surprise you a bit, and quite their liberality. And then we can go from there into more aspects of dialogue. Is that okay?
Yes, absolutely. That's important to have an overview of the official statement, the ISKCON. And if you allow me, Guru Maharaj, I'd like to share just a quick, brief thing, which sure. I can relate greatly with your experience with Adivasis in Talasari farm. Basically, it reminds me actually in our situation here, which we are basically exposed to very similar environment in just on a larger scale here. If you remember when you was here, because of greatly diverse community here of different nationalities and different people from all around the world, and mainly from India and Bangladesh and Pakistan and so on. So when I actually go to certain areas of this city, I feel like that otherness comes forward so much that I can notice that these people simply don't know how to interact with us, how to interact with anyone who is not from their social circle. So it's very, very present here. So they're so confused. They're sometimes just moving out of our ways. I'm talking us as Westerners who are here for some work or whatever. So these people are just like keeping a distance. They don't know how to behave. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to act. What is proper? What is improper? It's a whole whole bunch of confusion around them. So it's so present.
Bundle of confusion. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. On the one side, we talk about globalization, how the world is becoming smaller, everyone coming together because of communication, electronic communication, whatever. But then at the same time, we see this fragmentation, people living in the same city, but actually living in totally different worlds from each other. It's really true. How to bridge these gaps.
Yeah.
Harinama, Harinama.
Yes. That's what they have like
prasadam.
Yes, they have preaching here, these labor camps, and there is a certain groups of devotees who are from their social cycle, so they are going and preaching there in the labor camps. They have
that's very nice.
They're dedicated several groups. I attended there. I was invited for a few programs in the labor camps. It's amazing. Like a really, we even have one Kirtan Dubai was also held there in one of the labor camps. It was very amazing, very humble devotees, very humble people. It's really, really nice experience. Genuine and humble and so beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, so that is bridging some of these boundaries. Ultimately, we understand this is the only way, isn't it, to bridge the boundaries is Sankirtan. But what I want to say with this dialogue, this whole idea of dialogical Vaishnavism is this is Sankirtan. This is sharing Krishna, but also opening ourselves to others. I think we need to get over this sort of one-way bridge idea to make real bridge. Yeah. If we're going to really connect with people, how is that going to work? Okay.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. So see you next Saturday. Satsanga continue.
Let me ask, how was this time? This was 11 o'clock Central European time.
For us, it's fine. So maybe other devotees to share from other parts of the world.
In Poland, for us, today time.
I have something to say, Maharaj, that I'm brought up in a completely cosmopolitan and multicultural environment, but I heard and read somewhere that Prabhupada says being multicultural is no culture actually. So basically, what I feel, because my closest friend, she's actually Christian, she's my school friend, and she was Catholic and very devoted and loved her very much. I love her still. That brought a better kind of acceptance within me. Actually, as you said, in tribal areas, they aren't exposed to people. So some way or the other, even I feel that being Vaishnava is a good, but yeah, definitely acceptance is a big thing. Like when I was in Chennai a few months back, I attended, I went to see the St. Thom Cathedral in Chennai. And incidentally, it was Sunday, and I attended Sunday Mass there. And to my surprise, there's so much similarity between their culture and our culture. So I love it that way. So I think being in different worlds with different people around, we get to learn so much, and that makes the world really very beautiful that way.
Yeah. Thank you. Very nice. Yeah, the St. Thomas Christians of South India, the claim is that St. Thomas actually went to South India and that he was martyred there. The historians say there's no definite proof, but they do know that that tradition, Syriac Christianity, has been in South India since at least the 4th century. Since the 4th century, which is, I mean, that's a long time ago. like American Christians, they think, 200 years is a big thing, but in India, they've been there since 1600 years at least. Okay, I've been called for lunch, so I'll say thank you all very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananda Vaishnavarinda ki jai. Itai Gaura Premanande Hari.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.